Hare Krishna. Welcome all of you for today's Bhagavad Gita reading session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace Vishwaguru Abhay Charana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 6 entitled Sankhya Yoga, text 33. Arjuna Uvacha Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktas Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham na prashyami chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram. Synonyms. Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna said, Yaha, the system. I am this. Yogaha, mysticism. Tvaya, by you. Proktaha, described. Samyena, generally. Madhusudana, O killer of the demon Madhu. Etasya, of this. Aham, I. Na, do not. Pashyami, see. Chanchalatvat, due to being restless. Sthitim, situation. Sthiram, stable. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Purport. The system of mysticism described by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, beginning with the words Shuchau Deshe and ending with Yogi Paramaha, is here being rejected by Arjuna out of a feeling of inability. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in this age of Kali. The present age is characterized by a bitter struggle for a life of short duration. People are not serious about self realization, even by simple practical means. And what to speak of this difficult yoga system, which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagements. As a practical man, Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this system of yoga, even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family and was highly elevated in terms of numerous qualities. He was a great warrior, he had great longevity, and above all, he was the most intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we do now, yet he refused to accept this system of yoga. In fact, we do not find any record in history of his practicing it at any time. Therefore, this system must be considered generally impossible in this age of Kali. Of course, it may be possible for some very few rare men, but for the people in general, it is an impossible proposal. If this were so 5,000 years ago, then what of the present day? Those who are imitating this yoga system in different so called schools and societies, although complacent, are certainly wasting their time. They are completely in ignorance of the desired goal. Text 34. Chanchalam himana Krishna pramathi balavadrudam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sadushkaram. Synonyms: Chanchalam, flickering; he, certainly; Manaha, mind; Krishna, O Krishna; Pramathi, agitating; Balavat, strong; Drudham, obstinate; Tasya, its; Aham, I; Nigraham, subduing; Manye, think; Vayoho, of the of the wind; Iva, like; Sudushkaram, difficult. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it is, it seems to me, more difficult than controlling the wind. Purport: The mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literatures, it is said, Atmanam rathinam vidhi shariram rathame cha buddhin tu sarathim vidhi manah pragrahame cha indriyani hayanyahur vishayamste gocharan Atmaindriya mano yukto bhokte tyahur manishinaha. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? The simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance, in all humility. The method prescribed is Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayoho. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind. Text 35. Sri Bhagavanuvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grihyate. Synonyms: Sri Bhagavanuvacha, the personality of Godhead said, Asamshayam, undoubtedly; Mahabaho, O mighty armed one; Manaha, mind; Durnigraham, difficult to curb; Chalam, flickering; Abhyasena, by practice; Tu, but; Kaunteya, O son of Kunti; Vairagyena, by detachment. Cha also grihyate can be so controlled. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment. Purport. The difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind, as expressed by Arjuna, is accepted by the personality of Godhead. But at the same time, he suggests that by practice and detachment it is possible. What is that practice? In the present age, no one can observe strict rules and regulations, such as placing oneself in a sacred place, focusing the mind on the supersoul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind in spirit. Impersonal spiritual detachment is more difficult than attaching the mind to the activities of Krishna. This is practical because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit. This attachment is called Pareshanubhuti, spiritual satisfaction. It is just like the feeling of satisfaction a hungry man has for every morsel of food he eats. Similarly, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment and appropriate diet. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating the foodstuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness. Text 36. असंयततात्मना योगो दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुम् उपायतः. Synonyms: asamyata, unbridled; atmana, by the mind; yogaha, self-realization; dushprapaha, difficult to obtain; iti, thus; me, mine; matihi, opinion; vashya, controlled; atmana, by the mind; tu, but; yatata, while endeavoring; shakyaha, practical; avaptum, to achieve; upayataha, appropriate means. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work, but he whose mind is controlled and who strives by right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares that one who does not accept the proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement can hardly achieve success in self realization. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Similarly, yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Such a show of yoga, Such a show of yoga practice may be materially lucrative, but it is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Therefore, the mind must be controlled by engaging it constantly in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. A Krishna conscious person easily achieves the result of yoga practice without separate endeavor, but a yoga practitioner cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna conscious. Text 37. Arjuna Uvacha Ayati Shraddhayopeto Yogacchalitamanasah Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Gatim Krishna Gacchati. Synonyms. Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna said, Ayatihi, unsuccessful transcendentalist. Shraddhaya, with faith. Upetaha, engaged. Yogat, from the mystic link. Chalita, deviated. Manasaha, of one who has such a mind. Aprapya, failing. Yoga Samsiddhim, highest perfection in mysticism. Kam, which. Gatim, destination. Krishna, O Krishna. Gacchati, achieves. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Arjuna said, what is the destination of the man of faith who does not persevere, who in the beginning takes to the process of self realization, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? Purport. The path of self realization or mysticism is described in the Bhagavad Gita. The basic principle of self realization is knowledge that the living entity is not this material body, but that he is different from it and that his happiness is in eternal life, bliss, and knowledge. These are transcendental beyond both body and mind. Self realization is sought by the Self realization is sought by the path of knowledge, the practice of the Eightfold System, or by Bhakti Yoga. In each of these processes, one has to realize the constitutional position of the living entity, his relationship with God, and the activities whereby he can re-establish the lost link and achieve the highest perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. Following any of the above mentioned three methods, one is sure to reach the supreme goal sooner or later. This was asserted by the Lord in the second chapter. Even a little endeavor on the transcendental path offers a great hope for deliverance. Out of these three methods, the path of Bhakti Yoga is especially suitable for this age because it is the most direct method of God realization. To be doubly assured, Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna to confirm his former statement. One may sincerely accept the path of self realization, but the process of cultivation of knowledge and the practice of the Eightfold Yoga system are generally very difficult for this age. Therefore, despite constant endeavor, one may fail for many reasons. First of all, one may not be following the process. To pursue the transcendental path is more or less to declare war on illusory energy. Consequently, whenever a person tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy, she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. A conditioned soul is already allured by the modes of material energy, and there is every chance of being allured again, even while performing transcendental disciplines. This is called Yogat Chalita Manasaha, deviation from the transcendental path. Arjuna is inquisitive to know the results of deviation from the path of self realization. Text 38. Kachinno bhaya vibhrashtas छिन्नाभ्रम इव नश्यति अप्रतिष्ठो महाबाहो विमूढ़ो ब्रह्मण पथि. Synonyms: Kachit, whether; na, not; Ubhaya, both; Vibhrashtaha, deviated from; Chinna, fallen; Abhram, cloud; Iva, likened; Nashyati, perishes; Apratishtaha, without any position; Mahabaho, O mighty armed Krishna; Vimudhaha, bewildered; Brahmanaha, of transcendence; Pathi, on the path. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man, being deviated from the path of transcendence, perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Purport: There are two ways to progress. Those who are materialists have no interest in transcendence. Therefore, they are more advanced in material advancement by economic development or in promotion to the higher planets by appropriate work. When one takes to the path of transcendence, one has to cease all material activities and sacrifice all forms of so called material happiness. If the aspiring transcendentalist fails, then he apparently loses both ways. In other words, he can enjoy neither material happiness nor spiritual success. He has no position. He is like a riven cloud. A cloud in the sky sometimes deviates from a small cloud and joins a big one. But if it cannot join a big one, then it is blown away by the wind and becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. The Brahmanaha Pati in the path of is the path of transcendental realization through knowing oneself to be spiritual in essence, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who is manifested as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Lord Sri Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Supreme Absolute Truth, and therefore, one who is surrendered to the Supreme Person is a successful transcendentalist. To reach this goal of life through Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many, many births. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Therefore, the supermost of transcendental realization is Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness, the direct method. Text 39. एतन्मे संशयं कृष्ण छेत्तुमर्हस्य शेषतः त्वदन्यसंशयस्यास्य छेत्ता न ह्युपपद्यते. Synonyms: Etat, this is; me, my; samshayam, doubt; Krishna, O Krishna; chetum, to dispel; arhasi, requested to do; Asheshataha, completely. Tvat, yourself. Anyaha, without. Samshayasya, of the doubt. Asya, of this. Cheta, remover. Na, never. He, certainly. Upapadyate, to be found. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for yourself, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. Purport. Krishna is the perfect knower of past, present, and future. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord said that all living entities exist individually in the past, that they exist now in the present, and that they continue to retain individual identity in the future, even after liberation from the material entanglement. So, he was already cleared up. So, he has already cleared up the question of the future of the individual living entity. Now, Arjuna wants to know of the future of the unsuccessful transcendentalist. No one is equal to or above Krishna, and certainly the so called great sages and philosophers who are at the mercy of material nature cannot equal him. Therefore, the verdict of Krishna is the final and complete answer to all doubts because he knows past, present, and future perfectly. But no one knows him. Krishna and Krishna conscious devotees alone can know what is what. Text 40. Sri Bhagavanuvacha Parthanaiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyanakrit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati. Synonyms. Sri Bhagavanuvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Partha, O son of Pritha, na eva, never is it so, iha, in this material world, na, never, amutra, in the next life, vinashaha, destruction, tasya, his, vidyate, exists, na, never, he, certainly, kalyanakrit, one who is engaged in auspicious activities, kaschit, anyone, durgatim, degradation, tata, thereafter, gacchati, going. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse 17, Sri Narad Muni instructs Vyasadeva as follows. त्यक्त्वा स्वधर्मं चरणाम्बुजं हरेर् भजन्नपकोत्तपते ततो यदि यत्र क्व वा यत्र क्व वा भद्रमभूदमुष्य किम् को वार्थ आप्तोऽभजतां स्वधर्मतः. If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness, One may attain the highest perfection if it is completed, but if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction of not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there, there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction of not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not the loser because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so even if he is low born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratifications without knowledge of their next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non regulated section, and those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated section. The non regulated section, both civilized and non civilized, educated and non educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious because, enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions and thus gradually rise to Krishna consciousness certainly progress in life. We shall continue to read in the next session. Thank you for your valuable time. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय.
जय
विश्व गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
जय
Jai
Hare
हरे
Krishna.
कृष्ण
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome for today's Bhagavad Gita reading session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 6 entitled Sankhya Yoga, text 40. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha पार्थनैवेह नामुत्र विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याणकृत् कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति. Synonyms. Sri Bhagavanuvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Partha, O son of Pritha, na eva, never is it so, iha, in this material world, na, never, amutra, in the next life, vinashaha, destruction, tasya, his, vidyate, exists, na, never, he, certainly, kalyanakrit, one who is engaged in auspicious activities, kashchit, anyone, durgatim, degradation, tata, thereafter, gachati, going. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. the Blessed Lord said, Son of Pratha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse 17, Sri Narad Muni instructs Vyasadeva as follows. त्यक्त्वा स्वधर्मं चरणाम्बुजं हरेर् भजन्न पक्वोऽतपते ततो यदि यत्र क्व वा यत्र क्व वा भद्रमभूदमुष्य किम् को वार्थ आप्तो अभजतां स्वधर्मतः. If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed, but if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction of not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries, even though he may be subjected to the reaction of not perfectly executing prescribed duties. He is still not a loser because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so even if he is low born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratifications without knowledge of their next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non regulated section. And those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated section. The non regulated section, both civilized and non civilized, educated and non educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious because, enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions and thus gradually rise to Krishna consciousness certainly progress in life. Those who are then following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into three sections, namely 1. The followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity. 2. Those who are trying to find out the ultimate liberation from material existence. And 3. Those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. Those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into two classes: those who are fruitive workers and those who desire no fruit for sense gratification. Those who are after fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. The only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity, and anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. And because the Eightfold Yoga system is directed toward the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious, and no one who is trying his best in this matter need fear degradation. Text 41. प्राप्य पुण्यकृतां लोकान् उषित्वा शाश्वती समाः शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेहे योगभ्रष्टोऽभिजायते. Synonyms: Prapya, after achieving; Punyakritam, of those who performed pious activities; Lokan, planets; Ushitva, after dwelling; Shashwatihi, many; Samaha, years; Shuchinam, of the pious; Shrimatam, of the prosperous; Gehe, in the house of; Yoga Bhrashtaha, one who is fallen from the path of self realization. Abhijayate, takes his birth. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. Purport: The unsuccessful yogis are divided into two classes. One is fallen after very little progress, and one is fallen after long practice of yoga. The yogi who falls after a short period of practice goes to the higher planets where pious living entities are allowed to enter. After prolonged life there, he is sent back again to this planet to take birth in the family of a righteous Brahmana Vaishnava or of aristocratic merchants. The real purpose of yoga practice is to achieve the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness. But those who do not persevere to such an extent and fail due to material allurements are allowed, by the grace of the Lord, to make full utilization of their material propensities. And after that, they are given opportunities to live prosperous lives in righteous or aristocratic families. Those who are born in such families may take advantage of the facilities and try to elevate themselves to full Krishna consciousness. Text 42. अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम्. Synonyms: Athava, or; Yoginam, of learned transcendentalists; Eva, certainly; Kule, in the family of; Bhavati, takes birth; Dhimatam, of those who are endowed with great wisdom; Etat, this; He, certainly; Durlabhataram, very rare; Loke, in this world; Janma, birth; Yat, that which; Idrisham, like this; Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Or he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Verily, such a birth is rare in this world. Purport. Birth in a family of yogis or transcendentalists, those with great wisdom, is praised herein because the child born in such a family receives spiritual impetus from the very beginning of his life. It is especially the case in the Acharya or Goswami families. Such families are very learned and devoted by tradition and training, and thus they become spiritual masters. In India, they become in India, there are many such Acharya families, but they have now degenerated due to insufficient education and training. By the grace of the Lord, there are still families that foster transcendentalists generation after generation. It is certainly very fortunate to take birth in such families. Fortunately, both our spiritual master Om Vishnupada Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj and our humble self had the opportunity to take birth in such families by the grace of the Lord, and both of us were trained in the devotional service of the Lord from the very beginning of our lives. Later on, we met by the order of the transcendental system. Text 43. तत्र तं बुद्धिसंयोगं लभते पौर्वदेहिकं यतते च ततो भूयः संसिद्धौ कुरु नन्दन. Synonyms. Tatra, thereupon, tam, that, buddhi samyogam, revival of such consciousness, labhate, regains, paurva, previous, dehikam, bodily consciousness, yatate, endeavors, cha, also, tataha, thereafter, bhuyaha, again, samsiddhau, for perfection, kurunandana, O son of Kuru. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. On taking such a birth, he again revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. Purport. King Bharata, who took his third birth in the family of a good Brahmana, is an example of good birth for the revival of previous transcendental consciousness. King Bharata was the emperor of the world, and since his time, this planet is known among the demigods as Bharatavarsha. Formerly, it was known as Ilavrita. The emperor, at an early age, retired for spiritual perfection but failed to achieve success. In his next life, he took birth in the family of a good Brahmana and was known as Jada Bharata because he always remained secluded and did not talk to anyone. And later on, he was discovered as the greatest transcendentalist by King Rahugana. From his life, it is understood that transcendental endeavors or the practice of yoga never go in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. Text 44. पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव ह्रियते ह्यवशोऽपि सः जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्दब्रह्माति वर्तते. Synonyms. Purva, previous. Abhyasena, practice. Tena, by the influence of that. Eva, certainly. Hriyate, is attracted. He, surely. Avashaha, helpless. Api, also. Saha, he, Jignasuhu, willing to know, Api, so, Yogasya, of yoga, Shabda Brahma, ritualistic principles of scripture, Ativartate, transcends. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist, striving for yoga, stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Purport. Advanced yogis are not very much attracted to the rituals of the scriptures, but they automatically become attracted to the yoga principles which can elevate them to complete Krishna consciousness, the highest yoga perfection. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 33, verse 8, such disregard of Vedic rituals by the advanced transcendentalist is explained as follows. Aho batashvapacha to gariyan yajjihvagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhuvu sasnurarya brahmanu churnama grananti yete. O my Lord, persons who chant the holy names of your Lordship are far, far advanced in spiritual life, even if born in families of dog eaters. Such chanters have undoubtedly performed all kinds of austerities and sacrifices, bathed in all sacred places, and finished all scriptural studies. The famous example of this was presented by Lord Chaitanya, who accepted Thakur Haridasa as one of his most important disciples. Although Thakur Haridasa happened to take his birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya due to his rigidly attended principle of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And because he chanted the holy name of the Lord constantly, it is understood that in his previous life he must have passed through all the ritualistic methods of the Vedas known as Shabda Brahman. Unless, therefore, one is purified, one cannot take to this principle of Krishna consciousness, nor become engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna. Text 45. प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु योगी संशुद्धकिल्बिषः अनेकजन्मसंसिद्धस्ततो याति परां गतिम्. Synonyms: Prayatnat, by rigid practice; Yatamanaha, one who endeavors; Tu, but; Yogi, such a transcendentalist; Samshuddha, washed off; Kilbishaha, all kinds of sins; Aneka, many, many; Janma, births; Samsiddhaha, so achieved perfection; Tataha, thereafter; Yati, attains; Param, highest; Gatim, destination. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. But when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately, after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Purport. A person born in a particularly righteous, aristocratic, or sacred family becomes conscious of his favorable condition for executing yoga practice. With determination, therefore, he begins his unfinished task, and thus he completely cleanses himself of all material contaminations. When he is finally free from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection, Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the perfect stage of being freed of all contaminations. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं जनानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वमोहनिर्मुक्ता भजन्ते मां दृढव्रताः. After many, many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely freed of all contaminations and from all illusory dualities, one then becomes engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Text 46. तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्च कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद् योगी भवार्जुन. Synonyms: tapasvibhyaha, than the ascetic; adhikaha, greater; yogi, the yogi; jnanibhyaha, than the wise; api, also; mataha, considered; adhikaha, greater than; karmibhyaha, than the fruitive worker; cha, also; adhikaha, greater than; yogi, the yogi; tasmat, therefore; yogi, a transcendentalist; bhava, just become; Arjuna, O Arjuna. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: a yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Purport: when we speak of yoga, we refer to linking up our consciousness with the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such a process is named differently by various practitioners in terms of the particular method adopted. When the linking up process is predominantly in fruitive activities, it is called Karma Yoga. When it is predominantly empirical, it is called Jnana Yoga. And when it is predominantly in a devotional relationship with the Supreme Lord, it is called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness is the ultimate perfection of all yogas, as will be explained in the next verse. The Lord has confirmed herein the superiority of yoga, but he has not mentioned that it is better than Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is full spiritual knowledge, and as such, nothing can excel it. Asceticism without self knowledge is imperfect. Empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is Bhakti Yoga, and this is still more clearly explained in the next verse. Text 47. योगिनामपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ततमो मतः. Synonyms: yoginam, of all yogis; api, also; sarvesham, all types of; matgatena, abiding in me; antaha atmana, always thinking of me within; shraddhavan, in full faith; bhajate, renders transcendental loving service; yaha, one who; Mam, me, the Supreme Lord; Saha, he; me, mine; Yuktatamaha, the greatest yogi; Mat, matta, Mataha is considered; Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Purport. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaja, which is used when there is need of service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaja. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshipping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. The Bhagavatam confirms this as follows. य एषां पुरुषं साक्षात् आत्मप्रभवमीश्वरम् न भजन्त्यवजानन्ति स्थानात् भ्रष्टा पतन्त्यधः. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. In this verse also the word bhajanti is used. Therefore, bhajanti is applicable to the Supreme Lord only, whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods or to any other common living entity. The word avajananti used in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is also found in the Bhagavad Gita. Avajananti mam mudhaha. Only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Such fools take it upon themselves to write commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajanti and the word worship. The culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti in bhakti yoga. Yoga actually means bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progressions toward the destination of bhakti yoga. From the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga is a long way to self realization. Karma yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. When karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called jnana yoga. When jnana yoga increases in meditation on the supersoul by different physical processes and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is called Bhakti yoga, the culmination. Factually, Bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name, Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, or Dhyana Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that He has surpassed all the other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga, just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shyamasundara, who is as beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded. Illuminating all sides is his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahma Jyoti. He incarnates in different forms, such as Rama, Narasimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudeva. He is the perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. This stage of highest perfection in yoga can be attained only by bhakti yoga, as is confirmed in all Vedic literature. यस्य देवे परा भक्तिर्यथा देवे तथा गुरौ तस्यैते कथिता ह्यर्था prakashante mahatmanah. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. I'm sorry, there is just a small part remaining. I will read it. Stay online. भक् भक्तिरस्य भजनं तदिहामुत्रोपाधि नैरास्येनामुष्णिं मनः कल्पनम् एतद्वा नैष्कर्म्यम्. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desire for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. That is the purpose of Naishkarmya. These are some of the means for performance of bhakti or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of the yoga system. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports to the sixth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Sankhya Yoga Brahma Vidya. Thank you for joining. We shall continue in the next session. We shall be starting the new chapter, seventh chapter, in the next session. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय. विश्व गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome all of you for today's Bhagavad Gita reading session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 7, entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Text 1. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Maya Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasyasi Tashrunu. Synonyms. Shri Bhagavanuvacha, the Supreme Lord said, Mai, unto me, Asaktamanaha, mind attached, Partha, O son of Pritha, Yogam, self-realization, Yunjan, so practicing, Mat Ashrayaha, in consciousness of me, or Krishna consciousness, Asamshayam, without doubt, Samagram, completely, Bam, unto me, Yatha, as much as, Gnasyasi, you can know, Tat, that, Shrunu, try to hear. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Now hear, O son of Pritha, Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Purport. In this seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, four kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, and four kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. In the first six chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as non material spirit soul, which is capable of elevating himself to self realization by different types of yogas. At the end of the sixth chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahma Jyoti or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. In complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahma Jyoti and Paramatma in full. By practice of Krishna consciousness yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia. One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the sixth chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in nine different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Tat Shrunu. or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore, by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity for progress in Krishna consciousness. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non devotee upstart puffed up with academic education. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the second chapter of the first canto as follows. शृण्वतां स्वकथां कृष्णः पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृद्यन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेष्व भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी तदा रजस्तमो भावा कामलोभादयश्च ये चेत एतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्नमनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगतः भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते भिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a friend, best wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the signs of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Asamshayam Samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verses 17 through 21. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the signs of Krishna. Text 2. ज्ञानं तेऽहं सविज्ञानम् इदं वक्ष्याम्यशेषतः यज्ञात्वा नेह भूयोऽन्यज् ज्ञातव्यम् अवशिष्यते. Synonyms: Jnanam, phenomenal knowledge; te, unto you; aham, I; sa, with; vijnanam, noumenal knowledge; idam, this; vakshyami, shall explain; asheshataha, in full; yat, which; jnatva, knowing; na, not; iha, in this world; bhuyaha, further; anyat, anything more; jnatavyam, knowable; avashishyate, remains to be known. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and noumenal, by knowing which there shall remain nothing further to be known. Purport. Complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the spirit behind it. The source of both of them is transcendental knowledge. The Lord wants to explain the above mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Krishna's confidential devotee and friend. In the beginning of the fourth chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Complete knowledge can be achieved only by the devotee of the Lord, directly from the Lord in disciplic succession. Therefore, one should be intelligent enough to know the source of all knowledge, who is the cause of all causes, and the only object for meditation in all types of yoga practices. When the cause of all causes becomes known, then everything knowable becomes known, and nothing remains unknown. The Vedas say, Yasmin Vijñāte Sarvameva Vijñātam Bhavanti. Text 3. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. Synonyms. Manushyanam, of men, Sahasreshu, out of many thousands, Kaschit, someone, Yatati, endeavors, Siddhaye, for perfection, Yatatam, of those and so endeavoring, Api, indeed, Siddhanam, of those who have achieved perfection, Kaschit, someone, Mam, me, Veti, does know, Tattvataha, in fact. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Purport. There are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, and hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first six chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can only be known by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripada Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But his followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna even though one has transcendental realization of impersonal Brahman. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. the primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non devotees to know him. Although non devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced factually according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantaki Harer Bhaktir Utpatayaiva Kalpate. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, Narada Pancharatra, etc., is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It is not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. Muhyanti yat surayaha, mam tu veda na kaschana. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says. And if one does know him, then Samahatma Sudurlabhaha. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, he cannot know Krishna as he is, Tattvataha, even though one is a great scholar or philosopher. Only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities in Krishna, in the cause of all causes, in his omnipotence and opulence, and in his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization, and the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore, it is said, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyaihi sevonmukhe hi jihvadau swayameva spuratyadaha. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Padma Purana. Text 4. Bhumirapo nalo vayuh kham mano buddhirev cha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadha. Synonyms: Bhumihi, earth; Apaha, water; Analaha, fire; Vayuhu, air; Kham, earth; Manaha, mind; Buddhihi, intelligence; Eva, certainly; Cha, and; Ahankaraha, false ego; Iti, thus; Iyam, all these; Me, mine; Bhinna, separated; Prakritihi, energies; Ashtadha, total eight. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether these eight comprise my separated material energies. Purport: The Science of God analyzes the constitutional position of God and his diverse energies. Material nature is called Prakriti or the energy of the Lord in his different Purusha incarnations or expansions as described in the Satvata Tantra. विष्णोस्तु त्रीणि रूपाणि पुरुषस्य पुरुषाख्यान्यतो विदुः एकं तु महतः स्रष्टुर्द्वितीयं त्वण्डसंस्थितम् तृतीयं सर्वभूतस्थं तानि ज्ञात्वा विमुच्यते. For material creation, Lord Krishna's plenary expansion assumes three Vishnus. The first one, Mahavishnu, creates the total material energy known as Mahat Tattva. The second, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, enters into all the universes to create diversities in each of them. The third, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, is diffused as the all pervading Supersoul in all the universes and is known as Paramatma, who is present even within the atoms. Anyone who knows these three Vishnus can be liberated from material entanglement. This material world is a temporary manifestation of one of the energies of the Lord. All the activities of the material world are directed by these three Vishnu expansions of Lord Krishna. These Purushas are called incarnations. Generally, one who does not know the signs of God or Krishna assumes that this material world is for the enjoyment of the living entities, and that the living entities are the causes, Purushas, controllers, and enjoyers of the material energy. According to Bhagavad Gita, this atheistic conclusion is false. In the verse under discussion, it is stated that Krishna is the original cause of the material manifestation. Srimad Bhagavatam also confirms this. The ingredients of the material manifestation are separated energies of the Lord. Even the Brahma Jyoti, which is the ultimate goal of the impersonalists, is a spiritual energy manifested in the spiritual sky. There are no spiritual diversities in Brahma Jyoti as there are in the Vaikuntha Lokas, and the impersonalist accepts this Brahma Jyoti as the ultimate eternal goal. The Paramatma manifestation is also a temporary, all pervasive aspect of the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. The Paramatma manifestation is not eternal in the spiritual world. Therefore, the factual absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is the complete energetic person and he possesses different separated and internal energies. In the material energy, the principal manifestations are eight as above mentioned. Out of these, the first five manifestations, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, are called the five gigantic creations or the five gross creations within which the five sense objects are included. They are the manifestations of physical sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Material science comprises these 10 items and nothing more. But the other three items, namely mind, intelligence, and false ego, are neglected by the materialists. Philosophers who deal with mental activities are also not perfect in knowledge because they do not know the ultimate source, Krishna. The false ego, I am, and it is mine, which constitute the basic principle of material existence, includes 10 sense organs for material activities. Intelligence refers to the total material creation called the Mahat Tattva. Therefore, from the eight separated energies of the Lord are manifest the 24 elements of the material world, which are the subject matter of Sankhya atheistic philosophy. They are originally offshoots from Krishna's energies and are separated from him. But atheistic Sankhya philosophers with a poor fund of knowledge do not know Krishna as the cause of all causes. The subject matter for discussion in the Sankhya philosophy is only the manifestation of the external energy of Krishna as it is described in the Bhagavad Gita. Text 5. अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम् जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत्. Synonyms: apara, inferior; yam, this; itaha, besides this; tu, but; anyam, another; prakritim, energy; vidhi, just try to understand; me, my; param, superior; jiva bhutam, the living entities; mahabaho, O mighty armed one; yaya, by whom; idam, this; dharyate, being utilized or exploited; jagat, the material world. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: inferior energy, besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, which are all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. Purport: here it is clearly mentioned that living entities belong to the superior nature or energy of the Supreme Lord. The inferior energy is matter manifested in different elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Both forms of material nature, namely gross, that is earth, etc., and subtle, mind, etc., are products of the inferior energy. The living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are the superior energy of the Supreme Lord, and it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic, and therefore living entities are always controlled by the Lord, and they have no different independent existence. They are never equally powerful as unintelligent men think. The distinction between the living entities and the Lord is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as follows: Canto 10, Chapter 87, verse 30. अपरिमिता ध्रुवास्तनुभृतो यदि सर्वगताः तर्हिं न शास्येतेति नियमो ध्रुवनेतरेथा अजनि च यन्मयं तदविमुच्य नियन्तृ भवेत् समम् अनुजानतां यद् अमतं मतदुष्टतया. O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities were eternal and all pervading like you, then they would not be under your control. But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. Therefore, real liberation entails surrender by the living entities to your control, and that surrender will make them happy. In that constitutional position only can they become controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who advocate the monistic theory that God and the living entities are equal in all respects are actually misleading themselves and others. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and all living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are his superior energy because the quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme, but they are never equal to the Lord in quantity of power. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy or matter, the superior energy or the living entity forgets his real spiritual mind and intelligence. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free from the influence of the illusory material energy, he attains the stage called mukti or liberation. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks, I am matter and material acquisitions are mine. His actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one in all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi energies of Krishna, and when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated. We shall continue to read in the next session tomorrow. I request all of you to please share one or two striking points from today's reading. You can share with me on WhatsApp. Thank you very much for your valuable time. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय,
Jai
विश्व गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
Jai.
हरे कृष्णा.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
We'll begin with prayers. Welcome all of you for today's Bhagavad Gita reading session. Let's begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Tarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaраvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 7 entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Text 6. एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृष्णस्य जगतः प्रभव प्रलयस्तथा. Synonyms. Etat, these two natures. Yonini, source of birth. Bhutani, everything created. Sarvani, all. Iti, thus. Upadharaya, no. Aham, I. Krishnasya, all inclusive. Jagataha, of the world. Prabhavaha, source of manifestation. Pralayaha, annihilation. Tatha, as well as. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both its origin and dissolution. Purport. Everything that exists is a product of matter and spirit. Spirit is the basic field of creation, and matter is created by spirit. Spirit is not created at a certain stage of material development. Rather, this material world is manifested only on the basis of spiritual energy. This material body is developed because spirit is present within matter. A child grows gradually to boyhood and then to manhood because of that superior energy, spirit soul, being present. Similarly, the entire cosmic manifestation of the gigantic universe is developed because of the presence of the Supersoul, Vishnu. Therefore, spirit and matter, which combine together to manifest this gigantic universal form, are originally two energies of the Lord, and consequently, the Lord is the original cause of everything. A fragmental part and parcel of the Lord, namely the living entity, may, by manipulation of material energy, construct a skyscraper, factory, or city, but he cannot create matter out of nothing, and he certainly cannot construct a planet or a universe. The cause of the universe is the Supersoul, Krishna, the supreme creator of all individual souls and the original cause of all causes, as the Katha Upanishad confirms. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Text 7. Mattah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. Synonyms. Mattaha, beyond myself. Parataram, superior. Na, not. Anyat, anything else. Kinchit, something. Asti, there is. Dhananjaya, O conqueror of wealth. Mahi, in me. Sarvam, all that be. Idam, which we see. Protam, strung. Sutre, on a thread. Maniganaha, pearls. Iva, likened. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Purport. There is a common controversy over whether the supreme absolute truth is personal or impersonal. As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, the absolute truth is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and this is confirmed in every step. In this verse in particular, it is stressed that the absolute truth is a person, that the personality of Godhead is the supreme absolute truth is also the affirmation of the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. That is, the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord, the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda, and the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. These authorities leave no doubt that the absolute truth is the supreme person, the cause of all causes. The impersonalist, however, argues on the strength of the Vedic version given in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Tato yad uttarataram tad arupam anamayam ya etad vidur amritaha te bhavanti atetare dukkham evapi yanti. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings, and lower animals. But beyond Brahma, there is the transcendence who has no material form and is free from all material contaminations. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental. But
Those who do not know him suffer the miseries of the material world. The impersonalist puts more stress on the word arupam, but this arupam is not impersonal. It indicates the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, as described in the Brahma Samhita quoted above. Other verses in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad substantiate this as follows. वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् तमेव विद्वान् अमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था विद्यते अयनाय यस्मात् परं नापरमस्ति किञ्चित् यस्मान्ना अणीयो न ज्यायोऽस्ति किञ्चित्. I know that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all material conceptions of darkness. Only he who knows him can transcend the bonds of birth and death. There is no way for liberation other than this knowledge of that Supreme Person. There is no truth superior to that Supreme Person because he is the supermost. He is smaller than the smallest, and he is greater than the greatest. He is situated as a silent tree, and he illumines the transcendental sky. And as a tree spreads its roots, he spreads his extensive energies. From these verses, one concludes that the supreme absolute truth is the supreme personality of Godhead, who is all pervading by his multi energies, both material and spiritual. Text 8. रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दखे पौरुषं नृषु. Synonyms: Rasaha, taste; Aham, I; Apsu, in water; Kaunteya, O son of Kunti; Prabha Asmi, I am the light; Shashi Suryayoho, in the sun and the moon; Pranavaha, the three letters; A, U, Ma; Sarva, in all; Vedeshu, in the Vedas; Shabdaha, sound, vibration; Ke, in the earth; Paurusham, ability; Nrushu, in man. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: O son of Kunti, Arjuna, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Purport. This verse explains how the Lord is all pervasive by his diverse material and spiritual energies. The Supreme Lord can be preliminarily perceived by his different energies, and in this way he is realized impersonally. As the demigod in the sun is a person and is perceived by his all pervading energy, the sunshine, similarly, the Lord, although in his eternal abode, is perceived by his all pervading diffusive energies. The taste of water is the active principle of water. No one likes to drink sea water because the pure taste of water is mixed with salt. Attraction for water depends on the purity of the taste, and this pure taste is one of the energies of the Lord. The impersonalist perceives the presence of the Lord in water by its taste, and the personalist also glorifies the Lord for his kindly supplying water to quench man's thirst. That is the way of perceiving the Supreme. Practically speaking, there is no conflict between personalism and impersonalism. One who knows God knows that the impersonal conception and personal conception
are simultaneously present in everything and that there is no contradiction. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya established his sublime doctrine, Achintya Bheda and Abheda Tattvam, simultaneously. One and different. The light of the sun and the moon is also originally emanating from the Brahma Jyoti, which is the impersonal effulgence of the Lord. Similarly, Pranava or the Omkara, transcendental sound, used in the beginning of every Vedic hymn to address the Supreme Lord, also emanates from him. Because the impersonalists are very much afraid of addressing the Supreme Lord Krishna by his innumerable names, they prefer to vibrate the transcendental sound Omkara. But they do not realize that Omkara is the sound representation of Krishna. The jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness extends everywhere, and one who knows Krishna consciousness is blessed. Those who do not know Krishna are in illusion, and so knowledge of Krishna is liberation, and ignorance of him is bondage. Text 9. पुण्यो गन्धपृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु. Synonyms: Punyaha, original; Gandhaha, fragrance; Prithivyam, in the earth; Cha, also; Tejaha, temperature; Cha, also; Asmi, I am; Vibhavasau, in the fire; Jivanam, life; Sarva, all; Bhuteshu, living entities; Tapaha, penance; Cha, also; Asmi, I am; Tapasvishu, in those who practice penance. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Purport: Punya means that which is not decomposed. Punya is original. Everything in the material world has a certain flavor or fragrance, as the flavor and fragrance in a flower, or in the earth, in water, in fire, in air, etc. The uncontaminated flavor, the original flavor, which permeates everything, is Krishna. Similarly, everything has a particular original taste, and this taste can be changed by the mixture of chemicals. So, everything original has some smell, some fragrance, and some taste. Vibhava means fire. Without fire, we cannot run factories, we cannot cook, etc. And that fire is Krishna. The heat in the fire is Krishna. According to Vedic medicine, indigestion is due to a low temperature in the belly. So, even for digestion, fire is needed. In Krishna consciousness, we become aware that earth, water, fire, air, and every active principle, all chemicals and all material elements, are due to Krishna. The duration of man's life is also due to Krishna. Therefore, by the grace of Krishna, man can prolong his life or diminish it. So, Krishna consciousness is active in every sphere. Text 10. Bijam mam sarvabhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhirbuddhimatam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham. Synonyms: Bijam, seed; Mam, unto me; Sarvabhutanam, of all living entities; Vidhi, try to understand; Partha, O son of Pritha; Sanatanam, original, eternal; Buddhihi, intelligence; Buddhimatam of the intelligent. Asmi, I am. Tejaha, prowess. Tejasvinam of the powerful. Aham, I am. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. Purport: Bijam means seed. Krishna is the seed of everything. In contact with material nature, the seed fructifies into various living entities, movable and inert. Birds, bees, men, and many other living creatures are moving living entities. Trees and plants, however, are inert, they cannot move, but only stand. Every entity is contained within the scope of 8,400,000 species of life. Some of them are moving and some of them are inert. In all cases, however, the seed of their life is Krishna. As stated in Vedic literature, Brahman, or the supreme absolute truth, is that from which everything is emanating. Krishna is Parabrahman, the supreme spirit. Brahman is impersonal and Parabrahman is personal. Impersonal Brahman is situated in the personal aspect that is stated in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, originally, Krishna is the source of everything. He is the root. As the root of a tree maintains the whole tree, Krishna, being the original root of all things, maintains everything in this material manifestation. This is also confirmed in the Vedic literature. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. The supreme absolute truth is that from which everything is born. He is the prime eternal among all eternals. He is the supreme living entity of all living entities, and he alone is maintaining all life. Krishna also says that he is the root of all intelligence. Unless a person is intelligent, he cannot understand the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. Text 11. Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshobha. Synonyms: Balam, strength; Balavatam, of the strong; Cha, and; Aham, I am; Kama, passion; Raga, attachment; Vivarjitam, devoid of; Dharma aviruddha, not against the religious principles; Bhuteshu, in all beings; Kamaha, sex life; Asmi, I am; Bharatarshabha, O Lord of the Bharatas. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. Purport: The strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. Similarly, sex life according to religious principles or dharma should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. Text 12. ये चैव सात्विका भावा राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि नत्वहं तेषु ते मयि. Synonyms: Yea, all those; cha, and; eva, certainly; satvikaha, in goodness. Bhavaha, states of being. Rajasaha, mode of passion. Tamasaha, mode of ignorance. Cha, also. Ye, although. Mattaha, from me. Eva, certainly. Iti, thus. Tan, those. Vidhi, try to know. Na, not. Tu, but. Aham, I. Teshu, in those. Te, they. Mai, unto me. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of this material nature. Purport: all material activities in the world are being conducted under the three modes of material nature. Although these modes of material nature are emanations from the Supreme Lord Krishna, he is not subject to them. For instance, under the state laws, one may be punished, but the king, the lawmaker, is not subject to that law. Similarly, all the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are emanations from the Supreme Lord Krishna, but Krishna is not subject to material nature. Therefore, he is nirguna, which means that these gunas or modes, although issuing from him, do not affect him. That is one of the special characteristics of Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We shall continue to read in the next session. Please share at least one striking point from today's reading. You can share with me on WhatsApp. Thank you very much for your valuable time. ग्रंथरा श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय.
Jai.
विश्व गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace Vishwaguru Abhay Charana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 7 entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Text 13. त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैर्येभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम्. Synonyms: Tribhihi, three, Gunamayahi, by the three gunas, Bhavaihi, state of being, Yebhihi, all this, Sarvam, the whole world, Idam, in this world, Jagat, universe, Mohitam, deluded, Na abhijanati, do not know, Mam, unto me, Ebhyaha, above these, Param, the supreme, Avyayam, inexhaustible. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Purport:
The whole world is enchanted by three modes of material nature. Those who are bewildered by these three modes cannot understand that transcendental to this material nature is the Supreme Lord Krishna. In this material world, everyone is under the influence of these three gunas and is thus bewildered. By nature, living entities have particular types of body and particular types of psychic and biological activities accordingly. There are four classes of men functioning in the three modes, material modes of nature. Those who are purely in the mode of goodness are called Brahmanas. Those who are purely in the mode of passion are called Kshatriyas. Those who are in the modes of both passion and ignorance are called Vaishyas. Those who are completely in ignorance are called Shudras. And those who are less than that are animals or animal life. However, these designations are not permanent. I may either be a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or whatever. In any case, this life is temporary. But although life is temporary and we do not know what we are going to be in the next life, still, by the spell of this illusory energy, we consider ourselves in the light of this bodily conception of life, and we thus think that we are American, Indian, Russian, or Brahmana, Hindu, Muslim, etc. And if we become entangled with the modes of material nature, then we forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is behind all these modes. So, Lord Krishna says that men deluded by these three modes of nature do not understand that behind the material background is the Supreme Godhead. There are many different kinds of living entities, human beings, demigods, animals, etc. And each and every one of them is under the influence of material nature, and all of them have forgotten the transcendent personality of Godhead. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, and even those who are in the mode of goodness, cannot go beyond the impersonal Brahman conception of the absolute truth. They are bewildered before the Supreme Lord in his personal feature, which possesses all beauty, opulence, knowledge, strength, fame, and renunciation. When even those who are in goodness cannot understand, what hope is there for those in passion and ignorance? Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all these three modes of material nature, and those who are truly established in Krishna consciousness are actually liberated. Text 14. दैवी ह्येषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते. Synonyms: Daivi, transcendental; he, certainly; Esha, this; Gunamayi, consisting of the three modes of material nature; Mama, my; Maya, energy; Duratyaya, very difficult to overcome; Mam, unto me; Eva, certainly; Ye, those; Prapadyante, surrender; Mayam etam, this illusory energy; Taranti, overcome; Te, they. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Purport: The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. Inferior material nature is defined herein as divine nature due to its divine connection and movement by the divine will. Being conducted by divine will, material nature, although inferior, acts so wonderfully in the construction and destruction of the cosmic manifestation. The Vedas confirm this as follows. Mayam tu prakritim vidyan mayinam tu maheshwaram. Although Maya or illusion is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the personality of Godhead, who is Maheshwara, the supreme controller. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood that the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be freed from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. Krishna, being the Lord of illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul and out of his paternal affection for the living entity who is originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. The words Mam Eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna or Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajoguna, passion, and Tamoguna, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya. Therefore, he can alone give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas confirm this in the phrase Tvameva Viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu.
Lord Shiva says, Mukti Pradata Sarvesham Vishnureva na samshayah. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Text 15. Namam dushkruti no mudha prapadyante naradhamaha mayaya pahrita jnana asuram bhavamashritah. Synonyms: na, not; mam, unto me; dushkritinaha, miscreants; mudhaha, foolish; prapadyante, surrender; naradhamaha, lowest among mankind; mayaya, by the illusory energy; apahrita, stolen by illusion; jnanaha, knowledge; asuram, demoniac; bhavam, nature; ashritaha, accepting. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Purport: it is said in Bhagavad Gita that simply by surrendering oneself unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can surmount the stringent laws of material nature. At this point, a question arises: how is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all the leaders of ordinary men do not surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the all powerful personality of Godhead? Mukti, or liberation from the laws of material nature, is sought by the leaders of mankind in different ways and with great plans and perseverance for a great many years and births. But if that liberation is possible by simply surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why don't these intelligent and hard-working leaders adopt this simple method? The Gita answers this question very frankly. Those really learned leaders of society, like Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, the Kumaras, Manu, Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Janaka, Prahlada, Bali, and later on Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sri Chaitanya, and many others, those who are faithful philosophers, politicians, educators, scientists, etc., surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, the all powerful authority. Those who are not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, administrators, etc., but those but who pose themselves as such for material gain, do not accept the plan or path of the Supreme Lord. They have no idea of God. They simply manufacture their own worldly plans and consequently complicate the problems of material existence in their vain attempts to solve them. Because material energy or nature is so powerful, it can resist the unauthorized plans of the atheists and baffle the knowledge of planning commissions. The atheistic plan makers are described herein by the word dushkrutina, or miscreants. Kritina means one who has performed meritorious work. The atheist plan maker is sometimes very intelligent and meritorious also, because any gigantic plan, good or bad, must take intelligence to execute. But because the atheist's brain is improperly utilized in opposing the plan of the Supreme Lord, the atheistic plan maker is called Dushkrutina, which indicates that his intelligence and efforts are misdirected.
In the Gita, it is clearly mentioned that material energy works fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It has no independent authority. It works as the shadow moves in accordance with the movements of the object. But still, material energy is very powerful, and the atheist, due to his godless temperament, cannot know how it works, nor can he know the plan of the Supreme Lord. Under illusion and the modes of passion and ignorance, all his plans are baffled, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, whose plans were smashed to dust, although they were both materially learned as scientists, philosophers, administrators, and educators. These Dushkrutinas or miscreants are of four different patterns as outlined below. Number one, the Mudhas are those who are grossly foolish, like hard-working beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves, and so do not want to part with them for the supreme. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass. This humble beast is made to work very hard by his master. The ass does not really know for whom he works so hard day and night. He remains satisfied by filling his stomach with a bundle of grass, sleeping for a while under fear of being beaten by his master, and satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. The ass sings poetry and philosophy sometimes, but this braying only disturbs others. This is the position of the foolish fruitive worker who does not know for whom he should work. He does not know that karma or action is meant for yajna or sacrifice. Most often, those who work very hard day and night to clear the burden of self created duties say that they have no time to hear of the immortality of the living being. To such mudhas, material gains, which are destructible, are life's all in all, despite the fact that the mudhas enjoy only a very small fraction of the fruit of labor. Sometimes they spend sleepless days and nights for fruitive gain, and although they may have ulcers or indigestion, they are satisfied with practically no food. They are simply absorbed in working hard day and night for the benefit of illusory masters. Ignorant of their real master, the foolish workers waste their valuable time serving Mammon. Unfortunately, they never surrender to the Supreme Master of all masters, nor do they take time to hear of him from the proper sources. The swine who eat the soil do not care to accept sweetmeats made of sugar and ghee. Similarly, the foolish worker will untiringly continue to hear of the sense enjoyable tidings of the flickering mundane force that moves the material world. Number two, another class of Dushkrutina or miscreant is called the Naradhama or the lowest of mankind. Nara means human being and Adhama means the lowest. Out of the 8,400,000 different species of living beings, there are 400,000 human species. Out of these, there are numerous lower forms of human life that are mostly uncivilized. The civilized human beings are those who have regulated principles of social, political, and religious life. Those who are socially and politically developed, but who have no religious principles,
must be considered Naradhamas. Nor is religion without God religion, because the purpose of following religious principles is to know the supreme truth and man's relation with Him. In the Gita, the personality of Godhead clearly states that there is no authority above Him and that He is the supreme truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the Supreme Truth, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is all powerful. Whoever whoever loses this chance is considered as whoever loses this chance is considered as a Naradhama. We get information from revealed scriptures that when the baby is in the mother's womb, an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance. We get information from revealed scriptures that when the baby is in the mother's womb, an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance and promises to worship Him alone as soon as he gets out. To pray to God when he is in difficulty is a natural instinct in every living being because he is eternally related with God. But after his deliverance, the child forgets the difficulties of birth and forgets his deliverer also, being influenced by Maya, the illusory energy. It is the duty of the guardians of children to revive the divine consciousness dormant in them. The ten processes of reformatory ceremonies, as enjoined in the Manusmriti, which is the guide to religious principles, are meant for reviving God consciousness in the system of Varnashrama. However, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of the population is Naradhama. When the whole population becomes Naradhama, naturally, all their so called education is made null and void by the all powerful energy of physical nature. According to the standard of the Gita, a learned man is he who sees on equal terms the learned Brahmana, the dog, the cow, the elephant, and the dog eater. That is the vision of a true devotee. Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is the incarnation of Godhead as Divine Master, delivered the typical Naradhamas, the brothers Jagai and Madhai, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So, the Naradhama, who is condemned by the personality of Godhead, can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in propagating the Bhagavata Dharma or activities of the devotees, has recommended that people submissively hear the message of the personality of Godhead. The essence of this message is Bhagavad Gita. The lowest amongst human beings can be delivered by this submissive hearing process only, but unfortunately, they even deny giving an oral reception to these messages, and what to speak of surrendering to the will of the Supreme Lord. Naradhamas, or the lowest of mankind, will fully neglect the prime duty of the human being. Number three, The next class of Dushkrutina is called Mayaya Apahrita Jnana, or those persons whose erudite knowledge has been nullified by the influence of illusory material energy. They are mostly very learned fellows, great philosophers, poets, literati, scientists, etc. But the illusory energy misguides them, and therefore they disobey the Supreme Lord. There are a great number of Mayaya Apaharita Jnanas at the present moment, even amongst the scholars of the Gita. The Gita, in plain and simple language, In the Gita, in plain and simple language, it is stated that Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is none equal to or greater than him. He is mentioned as the father of Brahma, the original father of all human beings. In fact, Sri Krishna is said to be not only the father of Brahma, but also the father of all species of life. He is the root of the impersonal Brahman and Paramatma, the super soul, in every entity in his plenary portion. He is the fountainhead of everything, and everyone is advised to surrender unto his lotus feet. Despite all these clear statements, the Maya Apahrita Jnana deride the personality of the Supreme Lord and consider him merely another human being. They do not know that the blessed form of human life is designed after the eternal and transcendental feature of the Supreme Lord. All the unauthorized interpretations of the Gita by the class of Mayaya Apahrita Jnana outside the purview of the Parampara system are so many stumbling blocks in the path of spiritual understanding. The deluded interpreters do not surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, nor do they teach others to follow this principle. Number four, the last class of Dushkrutina is called Asuram Bhavam Ashrita, or those of demonic principles. This class is openly atheistic. Some of them argue that the Supreme Lord can never descend upon the material world, but they are unable to give any tangible reasons as to why not. There are others who make him subordinate to the impersonal feature, although the opposite is declared in the Gita. Envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the atheist will present a number of illicit incarnations manufactured in the factory of his brain. Such persons, whose very principle of life is to decry the personality of Godhead, cannot surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Sri Yamunacharya Alabandru of South India, Sri Yamunacharya Alabandru of South India said, O my Lord, you are unknowable to persons involved with atheistic principles, despite your uncommon qualities, features, and activities, and despite your personality being confirmed by all the revealed scriptures in the quality of goodness, and despite your being acknowledged by the famous authorities renowned for their depth of knowledge in the transcendental science and situated in the godly qualities. Therefore, 1. Grossly foolish persons, 2. The lowest of mankind, 3. The deluded speculators, and 4. The professed atheists, as above mentioned, never surrender unto the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, in spite of all scriptural and authoritative advice. We shall continue to read in the next session. Thank you for your valuable time.
Please share one or two striking points from today's reading with me on WhatsApp.